Let's have a conversation. Good evening, everybody. Happy Monday. First of all, I want to apologize to anyone if you have been waiting for me to start since my start time that I had on of 7:45 p.m. Eastern time. I'm usually really good with time, but the problem is I'm getting old. So running around in the city and all that kind of good stuff makes me really tired. And I went to take a nap and I just couldn't get myself up in time to start this on time. But I wanted to get this out here tonight, regardless, before the end of the night. So first, as some of you know, or most of you know, if you've seen my community section or if you've seen my couple of video uploads that I have up, I was on a live New Year's Eve taping for the Hoda and Jenna show. And there's not too much to review with that, to be honest with you, but it was a good time. It was the usual process because, as y'all know, I don't live in the city. I don't live in what we call the city. What's up, Van Hoot? Those who don't live in New York and don't know the New York lingo per se, the city is what we call Manhattan, even though technically all the boroughs are considered New York City, but we don't call anything the city specifically except for Manhattan. So when I say the city, that's just an explanation of what I mean. So yeah, getting up and going to the city, it's a process. I got up, I got my clothes together. I headed out of my house approximately, I want to say about 6:45. And so to prepare you guys for what my expectations were for this taping, when I go to the live daytime television shows, I'm used to going there and they're more like fan involved. So even though you're going there, anything could happen. You could be speaking on camera, the host could be talking to you. It's kind of like a situation that is always interactive and engaging. I've only had one time where they actually included me in any part of this show, aside from just showing me on the camera. But I've seen it happen many times, people around me, and it could have happened for me, but sometimes I shy away or avoid those situations at times, believe it or not. I like to be amongst the crowd and amongst the audience, but sometimes I get stage fright in situations like that where I'm expected to do things on the spot and on camera. But anyways, I was like, anything can happen in this taping. So I guess I don't think I'm really under contract not to talk about it, but I'm still not really going to go into tremendous details about it. But it's just a New Year's Eve episode of that show that is going to be airing, I guess, on New Year's Eve at some point. I don't know the exact time, but it's just a pre-taping of that. So we went to first we stood outside. They told us to be there by 9:30. So I was thinking to myself, even general fan events, you have to be there on time or early. So I got there like 8:30 something, thinking there was going to be a big line. Yeah, it was pretty fun. I was thinking that it was going to be a big line outside, but I was the first person in line. And I'm like, where's the rest of the line? Am I in the right place? I asked somebody. They were like, yo, you don't start until 9:30, dude. And I'm like, yeah, and it's 8:30. It's not like it's that early. It's like an hour early, but I'm used to having to be there early for the shows and there being lines of people outside. And I just assumed that since this is a paid event, that you're being paid to be there, they're going to be here even earlier. But nah, it was the opposite. Most of the people showed up close to the actual time that we were supposed to get there. So we stood outside in the cold for a while. We finally got checked in. Then we stood outside some more. And then we finally got indoors. We did the coat check, which took quite a long time. And then we were in this lounge. We were inside of this lounge. The lounge was kind of set up as if we were there for the party. So basically, they had a few different sets that they taped of the hosts, kind of doing like a New Year's countdown type of thing. And they went to different parts of the room, but none of the fans talked. They participated in terms of standing next to them, helping them with the countdown, dancing along with them a little bit, being in like little clips with them. But we basically just got paid to be fillers, people that were just in the room, which is cool. I mean, probably the easiest money I made in my life outside of another job that I had, which I won't name, but it was a job that basically almost paid me to sleep because I had the night shift and it was in this house, and I was like supervising in there, and basically I was asleep most of the job and I got paid. But aside from that, this is probably the easiest money. It was hard though in terms of I had to get up and dress up and make it out and be on time and be standing from, I want to say, from like 8:30, 8 o'clock until about 1:30, about 5.5 hours of standing. But yeah, that's all that happened with that. And then we left and then we went home. So that's all for that. The worst job is ones where you basically exist. Yeah, so just the experience of getting to go out there. It's funny for me being in these settings because if this was before I had started going to these shows, I would be like, man, this is so fake. I didn't know it was like this. I have an above average understanding of what is for the cameras and what is not. So that's why sometimes when I hear like TV show participants come out and be like, it's the edit, I kind of have a good ability to be able to see what the edit is, if it's a bad edit, versus if it was just you were doing something that painted yourself in a bad light and you wish that it hadn't been captured and it was. There's a difference. So I don't have much more to say for that. But the one other thing that I was going to get to was I'm about to put something on the screen. That's why I'm looking to what looks like my left, but is actually my right. YouTube sends these emails periodically, like a few times a month. They'll just randomly send these emails with stats and YouTuber tips and all this different stuff, right? So sometimes, let me see. Sometimes, yeah, definitely. Just trying to cover for themselves. Like you can edit to skip out. on content. Yeah. Where are we here? Okay, so I wanted to show you guys a few of these. This is the first one here. Your 2022 snapshot. So in 2022, I had 1.5 million total views. I had 2.1 million minutes of watch time, and I had 33.2 thousand total likes. I had 1,794 subscribers, which is almost all of my subscribers, because right now I have, the last I checked, it was about 1,850. So that means that this year I had 1,794 new subscribers. The month with the most views was September, obviously. I'm not surprised about September being the month with the most views, because that was my only month. That was basically my only month that I was covering Big Brother. Top viewed videos of the year. I'm not surprised by these either. The one that says who wins HOH, who wins part one of HOH was my live feed after Turner won part one of the HOH. Monty Wears the Headphones. If y'all have been really following my channel, Monty Wears the Headphones was a classic. And this was when my channel was at its hottest point, where I could turn this camera on any time of day or night and have at least 100 people on my feed. And let's chop it up today. Where do we stand? I believe that this was that same time period when we were doing the HOH Part 1 and 2 tournament. Where are we at next? So it shows the top countries viewing my channel: United States, Canada, and India. I reached final boss status, apparently. I have 6,914 live stream minutes, and that's minutes watched, not minutes of videos that I have put up. Almost 7,000 live stream minutes of you guys watching me. Total live stream views 73,000. And these numbers are significant to me. Let me see. Join the YouTube partnership program. This is just a summary YouTube had at the end of my year-end accomplishments. And it says, thank your fans for my year on YouTube. I guess they want you to put that hashtag. I'm not one to follow trends, but 33.2 likes you gave me and 2.1 million total minutes you watched my channel. All records for me by far. Let me get back to these comments. Amazing to see the growth. Monty wears the headphones for the win. Basically grew your entire channel. Yes. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. First, I wanted to just thank everyone who's on here watching this, or anyone who is going to view this on the replay. Anyone who's going to view this on the replay, because as a lot of y'all know, even something as simple as this setup, I did have this banner before I started this channel, or before I started doing Big Brother on this channel specifically. I did have this mic already, and I did have the camera that you guys see me talking to, but I wasn't using any of that stuff. I just picked up my phone one day and I was like, how does this YouTube live thing work? Press the button and 20 people were on there. And I keep repeating this story, but it's the truth. 20 people came on that first time that I put this phone camera on, not this computer camera. I wasn't even using the computer until not that long ago. Hi, Lisa. So I want to tell you something about this channel, since I'm kind of reviewing my year. my YouTube year and those stats that I just showed you about my year, it's technically a year. Those stats are technically 1 year, but I was not using YouTube at the beginning of the year because I had given up on YouTube. I was trying to get into this YouTube partnership program last year, and I couldn't even get the minutes requirement, the minutes and the views requirement, and the subscriber requirement. 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 minutes actively in the last 12 months. And I'm like, I can't crack the formula for this. I'm getting very little views on these videos that I'm putting up. I have less than 100 subscribers, and I'm putting so much hours and time into trying to make this thing work. And eventually I said, you know what? YouTube is actually a waste of my time. Not that I wasn't using YouTube. I was definitely using YouTube as a viewer, but I gave up on putting up content and trying to get my page monetized. So I let the page rock for a long time. I wasn't putting anything up on the page. I was just looking at videos for my entertainment. And that was the case going all the way into this year. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. So August rolls around. I actually am going to get to your questions, Van Hoot, but I'm the type of person who will lose my train of thought and not be able to get it back. So, yeah, we're going through the year all the way, January through August. And then August rolls around, and I'm watching Big Brother, and I'm commenting with like my couple of friends in real life who enjoy Big Brother, and my mom, because my mom has been a Big Brother fan forever, and we never talked about it because I'm like, I'm not interested in Big Brother. But when I got interested in it, we started having some conversations about it, funny enough. So I'm watching it and I'm seeing certain things going on with Taylor specifically. And I'm like, what is going on? This looks a certain way, but I feel, is it just me who thinks that things are looking this way, or is this how it looks to everybody? Then I started watching some Big Brother pages where people were talking about everything that was going on in the house. And I started commenting on those pages, and people were having back and forth discussions with me in the comments. So one day I was like, it's fun to watch on the sidelines, but I kind of want to hop in the game and see what happens. So I always tell people that it was happenstance in my mind that I started covering Big Brother at all. I had never had an intention of covering Big Brother at all. And I wasn't even a big Brother fan prior to like 2020. Just like how a lot of the people that were in the house this year were like, oh, I started watching the cookout season and then went back and watched all these other seasons. Well, the cookout season wasn't the first season I ever watched. It was the second season I had watched live. And then I had went back and watched some other seasons both prior to season 24 coming out. But yeah, I became a Big Brother fan later on in life, you know, pretty recently. So I happened to upload a video of Taylor. It wasn't a live feed. It wasn't anything. It was just Taylor eating her Lay's that she was always eating. Put the video up. It got some absurd amount of views, the most views that my channel had ever gotten. And I'm like, well, this is kind of silly. How am I going to upload this one video of a house guest eating Lay's? And it's going to get more views on that one video than probably my whole channel combined at that point in time. And then I was like, but you know what? Let's just go with the flow here. So I continued uploading little clips, and those were getting views. And then I started doing episode recaps. And then I throw up an episode recap, and it starts out like 100 views, 200 views. Then the episode recaps are getting like 500 views, 600, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. And I'm like, wow, maybe people are actually So people are interested in hearing me recap the show. And then skipping to how I got to doing live feeds is because when my page got rejected twice for reused content, I started to say to myself, the only thing that I can guarantee that YouTube can never clip from my page is if I get on this camera, there's no footage of any show, there's no music, and there's nothing in the background, there's no TV show in the background, and it's just me talking to y'all. If I can do that and people view me doing that, that's going to be able to get my page monetized because it's something that I don't have to worry about doing any tricks or editing tricks or anything. And we'll see how that goes. So, like I said, hopped on the camera, 20 people. 20 people were on there. I don't remember exactly which people were on there. Honestly, I mainly remember like a couple of them due to the fact that they inbox me and they still chat with me today on Instagram and wherever platforms. But those 20 people were like, "Oh, I didn't know that there was this Big Brother channel." And I was like, "I didn't know I was a Big Brother channel either. I just started covering it a week or two ago." And they were like, "Well, you should continue with this. Would you come back tomorrow?" And I was like, "I guess." I was like, "I guess." So I said, "Would you come back if I was here tomorrow?" So I come back the next day, and these people are talking to the new people that came, like, "What's up, team?" And I was like, "Team? I just started doing this yesterday." So then the next day I had 40 people in there. I had most of those people that were in there on day one, and then all these people that came in on day two. And they were like, "I like the sound of your voice. I like the perspectives that you give. I like the fact that you're level-headed. Um, your page is different than other pages that I've experienced, and I hope that you continue, etc., etc." So I was like, "All right, let me just strike while the iron is hot, I guess." So I kept coming on every day. 60 views, 80 people, 100, 120, 140. I think I have the numbers somewhere in my phone, but I think at some point I had a stream with like 400 plus. I had a stream with like 400 plus people in there, and I was like, I never thought I would hop on this phone. It wasn't even on the computer, it was on the phone. Because y'all remember I was struggling to figure out how to make the computer work. And it's like, I never thought I'd have that big of an audience just talking. I think one of those clips, snippets that I put up, the screenshot that I put up at the beginning of this, one of them said, one of my highest viewed videos was "Where Do We Stand?" Where Do We Stand was a video of me during my lunch break from work. I sat in my car. I had just driven out to do some errands. And then I just was like, where do we stand? Put a little thumbnail there on my phone, open up the live, and then all of a sudden it was like, whoa, 200 and something people watching me sitting in my car talking about my thoughts on what's happening in the last couple of days in the house. So I was like, at that point, I was like, I have arrived. Because at the beginning, things had to be happening for me to be getting those views. Like I had to put in a lot of work and interesting things had to be happening on the show for me to get those views. But when I got to the point where I just turned on the camera and the views were there like that, I was like, I have arrived. Okay, so I'm going to get to these comments now because I've gotten out most of what I wanted to say. It's amazing to see the entire growth from start to finish. Thank you. I think I already put this up, Lisa, but I'm putting it up again. Now, if you could go back and tell yourself one thing a year ago, what would it be? That's easy. Don't give up. Great things take time. And that's the advice that I would give myself last year. But going back even further from last year, Your question actually ties into something that I was thinking about before I turned this camera on just now. 10 to 11 years ago, I started a community that was based around um, helping people overcome mental health issues. I still have a lot of that content and stuff that was going on, stuff that I was working on during that time. So that included a website. I was selling merchandise. I was hosting my own my own support group that did some group calls twice a week. I think it was like Sundays and Wednesdays or something like that. I had about 8 to 10 people in that group that would call in. And then the same way how you see me do these topics where I have PowerPoints, I wasn't doing PowerPoints, but I would prepare the same way, where I would prepare a topic and then I would start the call and I'd be like, okay, our topic today, same format, is such and such. And then I would talk about the topic and then I would leave spaces for people to answer. And then they would give their commentary and we would have back and forth dialogue, et cetera, et cetera. I had a Facebook page connected to it. I had a blog, a lot of things. So the page was actually very successful in my opinion. Now, in my opinion, in retrospect, but because the page hadn't produced me a certain amount of money, I didn't consider it successful despite all these other wins. So I could actually sit here and tell you guys now 1.2 million this, 2.1 million minutes watched, this and that, all this stuff that YouTube sent me. I could tell you that this page right now is not successful based on it not being a huge financial gain. But at this point in time, I feel like the dedicated subscribers are it. The people that tune in and tap in and leave me comments are it. The community that I've built is it. And the money will come. This year was just a year of figuring out how to connect with the audience. And now that I've done that, I expect 2023 that it's going to be more of a well-oiled machine. I'm going to get better at what I'm doing. My community is going to continue to grow, and the money part is going to come when it's supposed to. Thanks for that question. Now, I'm going to answer the second question of what is one thing that you wish you did slightly differently, which is a harder question because you asked me the same question in two different ways. Slightly differently, I might have to come back to that one about what I would do slightly differently. It was incredible to watch. I couldn't believe you were a new BB channel. And I couldn't believe people were watching me just sit in my house and just talk trash. There's not a ton of black creators covering BB. Also, I got recommended you once randomly, and it was different. It was like you were just kicking it with people. Appreciate that. And you were super responsive to it. Felt like a family dinner. It always feels like family dinner to me. Yes, sir. And that's the vibe I caught too. The fact that Mark didn't just cover gossip, he commented on it and was different, more in-depth, intelligent discussions, always trying to bring balance as much as possible. It was so refreshing, the tagging on everything. I was hooked. Oh, else. Okay. I was like, am I dyslexic? The tagging on everything else he's about, I was hooked. I got kicked from Reddit, BB, because of Uncle Reddit's ruckus thing. So if it weren't for you, if it weren't for that, I may not have found you. Yeah. So, and maybe in terms of what I do slightly differently, Oh, so this is in what would I do slightly differently last year? It's hard to say because last year I was putting up only my mental health content and nobody was really viewing that. Or not that nobody was viewing it, but not enough people were viewing that. I think that what I would have done differently, and it's hard to even go back into that time and say this because it's not an easy thing, but having more confidence in myself, because I would say that that was the biggest thing that I got from the community that started following me. Because when I first started doing a mental health page and mental health content, yes, I was willing to speak on the phone and do group calls and all that stuff, but I was not willing to get on the camera and show my face and speak. I wanted to do everything but that. And the reason why is because I didn't want to be known as the face of having mental health issues. I didn't want to be seen that way by my family, by my friends, and by like a ruthless public that has no horse in this race and can say anything to me online. Um, and then when I got on here, people were like, "Man, I like the way that you sound. You know, I like the perspectives that you bring to the table. I like the fact that you are a black man willing to speak on mental health. You know, uh, I hope that you keep doing more of this." And I was taking in those comments. I really was. And I said to myself, maybe the thing that I have been running from was actually the way through. Instead of trying to find all these workarounds and ways around, like, hey, I'm going to post the Big Brother house guest, but not me, because I just want to build up a following of people that follow my channel, but I don't necessarily want to be somebody who's on this camera having to talk to you guys. And to tell you the truth, live feeds terrified me. I got to the point where I was very fine with actually recording my pre-recording myself. Like pre-recording myself used to be a problem too, but I was like, at least when I do this, I can watch the video back, or if I don't like the way something sounds, or if I don't like the way something looks, I can just delete it and start over, or I can just not post it because none of y'all are going to know about it anyways. So I remember when I first turned on my phone to do this live feed thing, I was like shaking in my boots. I don't know who's watching. I just see the little number that says 20, and I'm like, who are these 20 people? Where are they from? Do they think that I sound stupid right now? Am I saying things that make sense? Are they happy, sad, angry? Like I'm just talking to the screen. Um, but yeah, the continual feedback and the continual comments and everything like that gave me the confidence. And I didn't have the confidence to be consistent and persistent when I first started last year. And that's the reason why I stopped. I feel like with this confidence pushing me back into that time period, I would have been able to find a way to succeed otherwise. It might not have been as fast because shout out to Big Brother for that. I am grateful for connecting with some people in the Big Brother community because it helped me and it helped my page tremendously. Here's the thing, you discussing mental health stuff, you aren't talking about it as a crutch or a sob story. Instead, you are talking about the sobering truth of these things. And I always try to do that, Van Hoot. I always, this was the main reason why, even without YouTube or anything, it's the reason why I became a peer counselor. Because I remember when I first got my mental health diagnosis, it looked like it was really glum for people who got a mental health diagnosis. A life that was just not going to be interesting or fun, and a life where you couldn't really accomplish too much because you had caps and limits on what you could do. So when I started working on myself to get myself out of the place that I was in, I was like, I want to be somebody who is like, I go to these shows, I do all this stuff with fitness, I play multiple instruments, um, I do all this different stuff in the city. You know, I'm somebody who's fun to be around, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. Plus, at the bottom of the list is like, I have this diagnosis where it's an afterthought. Like, yes, it's something that affects me at times, but it's not something that is my whole life. Man, you're always on point with these comments, Van Hoot. Bringing humanity to entertainment. I would say that's almost a goal of mine when I cover these reality TV shows. That's why I like covering reality TV shows, because I have a totally different view. I'm not somebody who's like, these are just randoms on the screen to entertain us. I'm like, these are real people. They have real emotions. They make mistakes on camera. You know, there's many facets to these people, even though they're on a TV show that entertains us. Sometimes they're not painted in their best light due to the fact that they can't handle the pressure of what's going on. Sometimes ego gets to them in terms of they're trying to explain to fans why they did such and such and why they shouldn't be judged, not realizing, or maybe realizing in theory, but having a hard time accepting that some fans are just watching just to hate them, and then over explaining themselves and getting themselves deep into a doghouse. Where are we here? I can speak to a whole gym full of people. Yeah, as an instructor, right? But to be vulnerable and confident enough to just have my face and thoughts available for judgment is a whole other thing. And again, that's what you guys have helped me with. You have uploaded, man, I have put in work on this channel. Nobody can tell me that I haven't put in work on this channel. I have put in work. Hi, MMH family. Hope all is well for you. All is going well, Tammy. I was basically just showing everybody some of the stats that YouTube sent me, like end of year stats. And it was showing me the views, the new subscribers this year. It said I reached boss level, whatever boss level is, but in terms of how many views that my live feeds have gotten this year, which I think said 69,000 or something like that. I don't know. It's up there. Let me go back to this really quick. If I can find it. Oh, here we go. 6,914 live stream minutes watched and 73,000 live stream views. This is a lot, especially in a 3-month span. Oh, that's what I was getting to, Van Hoot, actually, when I got to your comment. This is not what I accomplished in 12 months. This is what I accomplished in about 3 months. September, October, November. Because I did my first live stream ever in my life, my first YouTube live stream ever in September of 2022. I had never done one before in my life. That was my first one ever. So if y'all were on that, if anyone was on that who's watching this, you were on my first one that I ever did. So I was just new and experimenting. Let me just turn on my phone and see what happens. So this was all done in a relatively short amount of time with no game plan, with no script. This the way that I keep showing you guys my notepad and my script. Well, I was doing notes when I started doing what's it called? Episode recaps. I was taking some notes for that, but those are the pre-recorded ones. When I started coming on live, there was no notes involved at all. I was just on here just speaking on what I can remember. And then basically the majority of it was discussion back and forth with the community. That's what gave me 2, 3, 4, 5 hours worth of stuff to talk about. And obviously the live feeds themselves. So I caught you close to the start. I'm pretty sure you got on one of the first 5 or 6 live feeds that I did. You were definitely on there the first week. I recall that. You might not have been on the very first one, but I remember seeing you there on the first week, Van Hoot. That's awesome, Mark. Nothing short of miraculous. Your hard work is paying off. It's wonderful to see. Thank you, Tammy. Yeah, so it's been a fun ride. It's definitely been a fun ride. I mentioned on one of my live feeds, I think yesterday or possibly the day before, that obviously, as you guys know, there have been things going on in my life and with my family, and there's been a lot of change happening in the midst of all of this happening. And the thing is, those things that are going on in my life and with my family, with my dad, and all that stuff has made me really committed to doing the things that I love and doing the things that I'm passionate about. And I'm not necessarily passionate about YouTube per se, but I'm passionate about the things that I talk about on YouTube. So because of that, it's like I'm willing to get past the YouTube part of it and the annoyance of YouTube to continue to provide that for people that I have now connected with. Social media and like YouTube is not my favorite thing in the world, to be honest with you. Um, it was cool seeing the live streams go from I know that was an amazing thing, Van Hoot. That was an amazing thing. Like 10 people, 15 people, and then all of a sudden it's exploding and 100 people and then it's 200. I remember there was a specific peak of the season where every time I got on here, it became like a thing for all of us to get the views to a certain number. And it was like, okay, I'm on here. I have 120 people on here, but the record is 150. So let's get it to 150. And y'all were liking, sharing, all of that. And I would stick on here until it got to that number. Then the next night, I'm like, oh, we're trying to surpass that. And then we get up to like 175. And then we get up to 200. It was, I really am appreciative of Big Brother. Every night you were staying on extra late, waiting to pass 200, then 300, etc. And next year, these numbers are going to be like 500, 600, 1,000. I feel confident about that. I feel confident that there's going to be a lot more people come the next season. I wish Big Brother was not once a year. And also, even if she never sees this, and even if this might not even be relevant to her, I am thankful for Taylor riding out the season and winning the season, because the thing that made this season so talked about and so interesting and so debated about was Taylor. Every like when I look at my stats that they're showing me, and every one of those like top videos that I have was some kind of thing relating to Taylor in some kind of a way. And while not every content creator would admit this, Taylor gave us all so much content, whether you love or hate her or anything in between. We got so much content talking about Taylor, Monte, Jailer, anything that you could think of, you name it. She was around the center of that. So even though I have not done so much coverage of that lately, because I'm kind of just ready to move on to the next season, that was something that was really exciting at the time. When did you join, Tammy? Like, did you join me during the season? I'm pretty sure you did, right? Oh yeah, that whole story, at least at the time, was impressive and fun. It was a great season. Friendship, friendship. It's weird because I didn't like Paul at all in his first season, and I liked Paul in his second season, and I was so upset that he lost to Josh. Man, I will forever be upset about that. Damn right, you're already in people's algorithm history, so you'll pop up right away on their channel suggestions. Yep. And the people who support me are going to be there. The people who don't are going to be there, and it's all going to help. And new people are going to come along, and it's all going to help. Everyone contributed to these views, whether they like my channel or not. uh, oh yeah, you were here from the beginning as well, second or third live. The one person I can think of who's not on here right now is Holly, as maybe the first person who hopped on the live. Well, I don't know who the first one is because it's not going to tell me that specific thing, but she was the first comment that I remember on the first live that I had ever done. And now she campaigns for me to be a Big Brother house guest. And I'm like, man, maybe back in the day before social media existed and before YouTube was really a thing, I would have loved to go on something like Big Brother. But nowadays, nah. What are your feelings on Slop and Have Not rooms? This specific show, in my opinion, is a mental health nightmare. I love the show, but I've listened to so many interviews. Man, if you guys listen to all the interviews of these current house guests after the show, I don't know if you guys have listened to these interviews that these guys have. All of them talk about their mental health. Have you heard a season where you've heard more people coming out of the house being like, I had to stay off of social media for my mental health? I'm not connecting with the fans because of my mental health. I had to spend all this time talking to a therapist because of my mental health. Mental health, mental health, mental health. And I think part of the reason for that is the fact that nowadays social media is ruthless. The internet is ruthless. So they come out of the house, they go into the house talking about all the fame that they are going to achieve when they get out of the house, right? And then they get out of the house and are surprised and shocked at these nasty comments that they get. They talk about death threats. They talk about, things that people clipped from the live feeds and said, I hate this person, blah, blah, blah. You should never support them, blah, blah, blah. They have followers, but a lot of what's happening is negative and toxic, and it's hard to deal with. It's definitely hard to deal with. But I strayed so far from your question. um, but yeah, the slop and have not rooms and all that stuff. Now I remember why I was getting to that point in saying that the Big Brother house is a mental health nightmare. It's automatically gonna spark some anxiety and paranoia with the cameras, the microphones, the fact that you're always being watched. You know you're being watched by production, and you know that you're being watched by millions of people around the world. Being in that environment itself is hard in and of itself, but then getting in a situation where you're not getting regular food. The food, a lot of them have talked about being somewhat of their comfort. So you get the food taken away. Remember when Xavier, and forgive me because my memory, hey AT2, forgive me because my memory is bad at times. But remember when Xavier had to be isolated? When he had to be isolated, he chose that punishment when he won the veto competition, I believe, and then he had to be in isolation for 12 hours or 24 hours or whatever it was. That was probably a nightmare. BB is a petri dish of toxicity. Yeah. The saddest part of the whole idea of the show: give people power, pit them against each other, humiliate some of them, and see what happens. It's so messy. Like the brown-eyed, blue-eyed experiment from the 70s. Yeah, so it's something, Van Hoot, because I believe that the closest thing that they have to getting their sanity is when they start to build a structure and a routine. When they start to build a consistency, they should offer them therapy. I totally agree. I totally agree. Let me see here. Do you want to hop on here, AT2? If so, I can drop a link. Yeah, and then they slap that consistency out. I am about to hop off fairly soon, but let me know. Yeah, people were saying it should be mandatory, and I totally agree with that. That it should be mandatory. And somebody was telling me that they get like 2 days a week with the therapist, but they need 7. They need them available 7 days a week. You could be an avatar if you want. It is all good. The sad, messy part is what keeps us watching. I mean, that's the truth, Tammy. It's like, I'm like, this experiment is irresponsible, but I can't look away.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. So I'm catching the end basically, but if I understand correctly, you're talking about how their mental health takes a toll, right?
Yeah, that's
Um,
the last thing we were talking about.
Yeah, because putting them inside a house and basically shutting them off from the world, they can't talk to their family. It's not a normal thing, you know. I think if you're a person that's naturally like a loner or reclusive, maybe you don't mind, but in reality, that's not a lot of us, and so. You hear about a lot of them saying like once they came out they didn't know how to act or they didn't know how to function normally. And there was even an interview recently with the house guest that was saying like he was mentally messed up, and did that excuse him from being an a-hole? Not really, but I mean, I can imagine, you put in those kind of situations, you might not act how you would in the real world, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And that's kind of what I was saying too earlier, is that these people kind of get defensive when the fans come at them a certain way because they're like, oh, you haven't had this experiment of being in this house and having all these cameras and then having these fans judge you and all this stuff. So yeah, I kind of agree with you. It doesn't excuse the behavior, but I can sympathize in some ways with that.
Right. Would you go on the show?
No.
No.
Would you?
I'm thinking about applying. I
Really?
am. Yeah, I just want to lose about 50 pounds because I heard the camera adds on about 50 pounds. So I want to lose 50 pounds before I go on there. They already called me fat. So, I want to lose a little weight and then I'll go and then I'll apply. If I can lose 50 by, I think the cutoff's like April something. If I can lose 50 by March, I'll be in there like swimwear.
There's nothing to do in there though, so you could always go in the exercise room every day in the mornings. And
True.
they got a bike in there. I think they got an elliptical or something.
Yeah. I'm not too worried about like the fan backlash and stuff like that. I think me being a YouTuber and doing this for the last couple of years, there has been so much nasty stuff said about me that I'm just kind of like, oh, all right, whatever. It is what it is. I realize that you're going to have the people that rock with you and the people that love you. And those are the people that you should want to be around compared to the people that have the negative stuff to say about you. So, as far as like the negativity and stuff like that, I think I would be able to handle that well.
That's awesome. I think for me, it's not necessarily even the fan backlash I'm thinking of as much as it is being in the environment itself.
Mm,
I feel like it would be hard to be without my comfort things that I usually do, my structure, my routine, like being out in this new place, living on a studio, and then having to deal with all these new personalities of people that I have to strategize against and figure out who's telling me what's true and what's not true. It just feels like a lot for me mentally.
right. And then I snore too. That's what I'm worried about. I don't want the camera to go, all that.
You remember, well, we have so much hours of Monty snoring
Right,
during this
right. But
last
no, I
season.
am a snorer. I ain't even ashamed to admit it. Like I snore. And so, knowing that I'm like, oh God, do I want that to be on camera? Like I'm not worried about like the little stuff they catch me doing on camera. It's more like the snoring. I'm like, oh God. Like I would have to stay up like 24 hours in the house and then try to sleep, sneak away and sleep during the day or something.
Well, now that you're on here, if y'all don't know AT2's channel, check out AT2's channel. But you do deal with trolls, I think, better than a lot of people because I see that I always find your responses hilarious, and it's just like you're like, hey, make it good. If you're gonna come at me, make it good and make it interesting. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah. Oh man. Let me tell you this, and let me tell you the honest truth. There was someone who said something to about me, this past weekend, and it really bothered me because I feel like right now I'm like very sensitive because I'm trying to, for those of you who don't know, I did lose my monetization, so I'm trying to get that back, and then it's all like, I'm okay, say whatever you got to say. But when you're trying to tear me down and create lies and false narratives, that's what I have a problem with. So it does get to me. But then I have to realize, like, yo, sometimes these people are going through something in their own lives, and I'm just a punching bag. Okay, go ahead. I'm a big boy. I can take it.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess you have to get used to the fact that people that you never see and you never hear can just get on there with whatever account and just type whatever, say whatever. So
Right, right. And trust me, I am okay with everyone words. I think when you try to threaten me, that's when I have a problem with it. But I'm fine when you're using your words. That's what we get on here for, to go back and forth and to quote unquote read each other and stuff like that. That's a part of the shtick. But when it comes to threatening people, that's when I have a problem with it.
I got you. Yeah, I don't necessarily think I had that experience yet, but I definitely had the slander part of it going on. uh, but
Yeah.
but I realize it comes with the territory. I'm new to this, so
Right. Let me tell you, like when it happens, you're kind of like, like what me? Because like you don't expect it because you feel like I'm not doing anything to these people. Why are they saying things about me? It confuses you,
yeah.
and that's the kind of stage that you're at right now. But I'll tell you this, like I said, you never get used to it. It's just that you have to find your own way of dealing with it. Sometimes the best way of dealing with it is to just ignore it and pretend like it doesn't even exist.
Yeah, but you don't do that.
No.
It's funny. It's funny you're giving me that advice, and that's typically what I kind of do. But you're like, oh nah, we're gonna talk about this. We're gonna make
Yeah, I'm
it
like, oh, okay. Like, because I figured, like, the people they want to show, that's what
good.
people know to come after me because I'll give them the show. I'll give them what they want. And so sometimes you got to give the people what they want. But I'm going to do it in a funny way to almost embarrass you. But for the most part, I'm going to let you know, like, hey, you're still welcome to come to my channel. Come over here. Let's have a conversation. I'm always one of the people, like, there was somebody who did a video about me, and like, he's a cool guy or whatever, right? And so I told him, basically have put his name in the title of my video because I knew he would see it and then come over. And I just had a conversation. I was like, hey, I know you're a newer YouTuber and stuff like that, and it's fine. Just have fun with it. I don't mind if people are dragging me or whatever. Just have fun with it, make it funny. Just don't go below the belt and make it malicious. So after that, he's been cool and has not done another video about AT2. So it worked, right?
Yeah, and I could say one thing I appreciated about you was, when I first, well, the only time I think I hopped on your channel, you're one of the first people that actually reached out and said, "Hey, jump on the channel," and you're like, "Support music and mental health channel." I watched him for his live streams and live feed videos, and
Yeah.
and I feel like a lot of people in this lane feel like the lane is too small, so they get competitive, not in a lighthearted way like what you're talking about, but feeling like there's not enough shine for everybody type of thing.
Right. Let me tell you something because it's kind of like there's two kind of BB Big Brother crews, right? It's one where like the outcasts where nobody likes those people. And then there's like another side where it's kind of like the former Big Brother castmates and stuff like that and they're all together, right?
Yeah.
And they do shows on Big Brother. And then it's kind of like all of us in the middle. But for me, because my content is so diverse and I talk about a lot of different stuff. I really don't trip off of it like, oh, this is me, you can't take this because this is what I do. I don't see it as a competition. I'm all like, we can all get a piece of the pie. Why not?
Yeah, and I didn't know anything about any of the Big Brother lanes that there were. So
Hmm.
I remember when I first started, I was just covering everybody's stuff. I didn't know there was lanes. I would be like, "Oh, I see this interview, I see this thing, I see this Big Brother stuff," and I'd put all their names in the titles. Hey guys, I was watching such and such, and I was watching this person, and then I had fans that were like, "You are not allowed to cover this," and I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I thought that was the weirdest thing.
Yeah, and like here's the thing, nobody ever put any rules or anything. That's the crazy part. Like nobody ever put like a rule like you can't cover like a topic or something that I covered. If anything, that brings traction over to their channel.
That's
Now it's different if you're playing their whole video and stuff like
yeah,
that and they're not giving them credit, like, but they can strike you for that. But if you're doing a review off of an interview they did, why not?
that's how I feel. Because I'm like, if you are doing a review off of my interview that I did, it's gonna make those people that follow you come to my channel to check out the interview. So it's good for me anyways.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
so it's always crazy when it's all like, you can't do that. Like, this is blah, blah, blahs, and you're trying to be like them. And you're like, what are you talking about? I didn't even know they existed. Like, huh?
I think I experienced some of the luxury of what you're talking about, even though we do different things. But what I mean by that is I cover a lot of things that aren't Big Brother too.
Right.
So
You do
I
like the challenge and stuff, right?
yeah, like I do the challenge, I do like different mental health things, I do some fitness stuff. So it's like even if I'm not covering Big Brother right now, I still have things to cover. So I came to a realization that some people need to keep Big Brother content going all year. And one of the
Right.
easiest and best ways to do that is trying to create beef.
Right, right. I
But
guess you'll be for like how long is it? Like 9 months until Big Brother comes back again, and then but they'll probably have the celebrity. I haven't heard an announcement yet, but they'll probably have the celebrity. So hopefully that breaks a little bit of it up. But I was gonna say BB23, they were able to stretch. I mean, they're still stretching out their 15 minutes of fame. So I feel like there's always content. But with
yes, yes.
BB24, I feel like it is kind of dying down. I think the last thing was the Daniel interview that was interesting, but
Yeah, like I agree with you with the BB23 because I remember watching them and how the cookout members specifically were
hmm
traveling everywhere together. Like they're over here, now they're in LA, now they're over here, now they're over here. I think all of them collectively realize we are going to be able to drag this 15 minutes of fame better together as a
yeah. See, they were about getting their money. Like the
yeah.
BB24, like they didn't, I guess they could because everybody ended up hating most of them. So maybe that's why they couldn't. But I just figured like they would be like, hey, can we just put our ish aside? Because I don't
Let's
think
at
all the
least face it.
BB23 people like each other, but we wouldn't know that.
I so agree because it was even cookout and non-cookout members hanging out.
Right.
So I feel like it was just like what you said. They were on some get money stuff where they're like, even if we don't love each other, we're still gonna be around. Like I don't even think Xavier and Kylan like each other like that. But they're
Right. I don't.
despite the fact that they say all this political stuff, I can kind of read between the lines sometimes when I hear certain things that they're saying.
Right. I honestly, they probably. Here's the thing. I think they tolerate each other, but they know there's a bigger goal. Them being a part of the cookout, they're definitely stronger together than separate.
Yeah, and I was talking about this on a live that I did a couple of days ago, I think, that this current cast, I said, is very fractured and they let it be known. So, and it causes division. That's kind of the reason why I don't like covering it like that. Because, yes,
hmm
it's interesting, it's something to talk about, it's kind of drama. But at the same time, it's like everybody is splitting amongst these groups. You know what I mean? Like, we got the Terrence and Daniel group, we got the group that is like, leave Monty alone, we got the jailers. You know what I mean? It's like each one of them has their own separate section of people
Right. Right.
following their specific thing.
Like for me, I feel that it was a point where it was all like, okay, this is a TV show, it's fine. But I think for those people, and I'm talking about BB24, when they got out the house, it seemed like, no, you were really nasty and evil in real life. It wasn't a character that you were playing. Because I think a lot of them try to play it up like, oh, this, it's edited and all this
Edits.
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. But it's all like I don't think you can blame everything on editing when we seen on the live feeds you were this way. Now when you're out the house, you're still the same way. So I don't understand when you're telling me, oh yeah, that was just TV. No, this seems like who you really are. Like I think Daniel is who he really is, who he really was on the show.
Right. And this edit thing, I said this before you got on here too. Like Big Brother in general is one of the shows where I feel like you get the most out of them compared to any other show because we don't have a 24 feed for Survivor, for yeah, for like the challenge, for any of these other shows. So we get to see a lot of hours and hours worth of conversations of these people about so many different topics. So it's like, yeah, we don't see everything, 24 hours of everything, but we see a lot.
Right. We see enough, to draw a conclusion.
Yes. And then when you're kind of coming out of the house and not really saying, this is not how I really think, but you're just kind of alluding to it's the edit and you don't understand because you weren't in the house type of thing. I do find that to be a cop out.
Yeah, that's how I feel too when they were like, you guys wouldn't understand. You guys have never been in that house. Okay, we haven't, but at the same time, I don't think that changes who you are as a human being.
Yes. Like we can understand the house, the pressure elements, and if something was happening to you in the house to where you just were just talking trash to somebody, we get that. But just in terms of you guys sitting around having conversations with each other, certain things that you're saying, they can't really be all blamed on the house like that.
Right. And I think also too, they aren't watching probably the whole season, or if they did watch the season, they didn't see the live feed. So it's easy for them to be like, oh well, I didn't see it, or oh yeah, that's not what really happened when you don't watch it. If they have to watch it and look at themselves, that's when they're gonna have an issue. And like that's when they'll wake up and see like, yo, maybe I did say something wrong.
You know what I don't like? I don't like how a lot of them go off of what the fans are telling them. So you know how the fans are making little clips of little things that happen all season, and then they're telling them this person was saying that about you, and I was defending them. And during this moment, fans were saying this, and I was saying this to defend you. And they're not actually looking at the footage themselves. They are looking at the reactions to the footage.
Right. You're right about that. I've noticed that too.
Yeah, and you can clearly tell sometimes in interviews where it's like they didn't actually watch what it is that people are complaining about. They're just kind of they generally remember it when they see what people are talking to them about afterwards, and they're like, I'm not going to watch it. I'm going to go off of what is being said.
Right. And that's not how you and that's why they don't take accountability, you know?
Yep.
You're
But
right about that.
anyways, I want to thank you for coming on. I am getting ready to hop off here, but I appreciate you being here, and I'm glad you
Yeah,
came
no
on the
problem.
channel.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you're able to get your monetization back. That's an interesting one, Tammy. It doesn't change who you are, it magnifies who you are. I kind of think so too. There are obviously certain cases where I think things happen on the show where somebody gets paranoid or they might have a moment of acting out of character, but that's mostly going to be a moment. Like AT2 was saying, I think we have enough video footage that we can see over the course of the season that we can know the difference between a moment like that versus something that is actually just part of your character. But anyways, I want to thank all of you for being here. Again, I'm going to thank AT2 for hopping on. If you haven't subscribed to his channel, give him a subscribe. And I will be back probably tomorrow. And I hope everybody here has a great night.